afternoon. Ralph E. Hartman here, Beneva Roadside south of Ballantrae, write-in candidate for District 17, U.S. Representative. I'm going to continue the subject pertaining to the moon. Like I said before, and I think anybody understands, there is a lot of complexity, and this isn't any intent to try to be concise about the matter, but as what I have specifically experienced. Like I said before, a representative for the people is for the people's safety, for their, day-to-day, hopefully any matters that could conceivably in any way adversely affect the people be resolved, and all of this testimony is only on behalf of the people being saved. There isn't any way for me to detail or even actually know all various complexities pertaining to religion. Different teachings have been occurring through years. Whatever the various complexities, when I encounter people day to day, that I hope that they're safe, that they got secure futures, that these days with more education and also awareness of actual events can help adjust some teaching to religiously with the intent of the people being saved. We know, like in Christianity, that there's prediction of end of the world and that there's prediction of Armageddon, but there's also pivotal phrases that are quoted from often. I don't remember the exact verse. Others who study the Bible can be much more aware and call a particular verse into referencing pertaining to this. That there's a passage in the Gospel of John, I think it is, not willing that any should perish, but that all should survive. Or not willing that any should perish, but that all should be saved. So, with that understanding, I think that the complexity that from the distant past is while there is doctrine and gradual proceeding through history that results in strife and warfare, but there is also the fundamental teaching that reminds us of the title of Savior pertaining to Jesus Christ a couple of thousand years ago. And I think there's another passage that plainly says, "Don't make war in His name," but that has happened, and it's a matter of other complexities that I can't possibly detail in this, and they're pertaining to the world, the physical world. We know that there is a passage that says God didn't send His Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through Him might be saved. That was written maybe 1,500, 1,600 years ago. Continues to be a fundamental indication of saving of the world rather than destruction. So anyway, pertaining to what I myself have personally experienced, as I began to describe in the previous message, that there was an instance on a late night in the first week of May of 1997. Then I slept. Then part of the event to prove that it had been pivoted at myself was somehow something caused a indentation to resemble me as though I was looking up frightened about whatever I was seeing pertaining to the moon. But there was like a cave-in. But then there was a sweep that the surface was smooth. There was just after the event that I mentioned, there was face of an old man as part of the moon up on the upper right side, who was made to look like he was doing something nasty. At that moment, that there was a shine added to the lower lip. So, but that was an image as part of the surface on the upper right side of it. Anyway, that could have been, indicating of somebody else. If a cave-in, momentary cave-in indicates somebody, the other as the surface of the moon might have indicated somebody in particular. I don't know about that either. But it was a culmination of something, and during the days afterward, and many nights, there was continuing action of luminous particles that might have in some way risen from the surface of the moon into the atmosphere, zooming across the sky back to the lunar surface. There was really a lot of instances to 97 until I think it was on the afternoon of August 21st of 97 that there began to be new impact craters on the moon. The first instance that I saw on a particular afternoon, I was resting underneath an oak tree behind the Ecology Center, building just west of Executive Center on New Ridge Road, when what looked like a spindle of narrow, solid metal rods with a kind of a ribbon, not color, but kind of like a ribbon of soil around it, appeared to less than a foot away from the outer corner of my left eye. Then it looked like a solid image that then zoomed to the moon, splitting into various separate impacts. In other words, what looked like a spindle of a number of small, narrow, solid metal rods spread apart during a zoom that took maybe 1 or 2 seconds to hit the moon, impacting the moon in a number of different places, each time forming an impact crater. And then just after, there was a spectacular looking rotation of the moon as though the moon spun in position, one revolution, and then it was there. So that was the beginning of what became a reformulation of the surface of the moon after several months of the moon surface being split. So another detail that I noticed was probably later in August, maybe days later, or maybe it was even before. I had bought a pair of binoculars, Imperial brand used binoculars from an estate store, estate liquidators at Merchants Point Plaza. And I was startled when I used the binoculars to observe the moon the first time that all along the right side of the moon looks like gigantic mountains jutting into space from the surface. I had studied maps earlier in my life. I like maps. And of course, globes, there were relief globes that represented mountain features on the moon. But there wasn't anything that represented such drastic indications of, drastic what looked like mountains all along the right edge of the moon. So apparently something had happened during the particular event in early May that I haven't seen since then. I accidentally left the binoculars behind one night on the handrail on the second floor of Building E of the Bee Ridge Medical Center. So anyway, those are my particular, some of my observations. As the years progressed, the subject became less and less common, but every night I'm reminded about it because there is another specific pivot about the action. The 1981 stain malpractice. Excuse me. As I mentioned before, back in 1981 there was an instance where a slight stain caused a little bit of an inflammation on the outer corner of my left eye, and what happened was I got an irritated throat. I don't want to have to cancel this though. So it was kind of codified secretly, wrongfully alleging that there had been a stain of another man on the outer corner of my eye, on the outer corner of my left eye, and that I had done something bad, and that I had withdrawn from society and started to live as a recluse because of doing something bad with the man. But they were really absolutely wrong. And I didn't even learn about the instance until nearly 20 years after, including, 7 or 8 years after the lunar actions had begun. So during that time, of course, I was most always having to be outside, and there were various observers who noticed the action above me. And what happened oftentimes is that when I first wouldn't notice the moon's position in the sky, there would be a projection somehow formulated to near the corner of my eye that would zoom to the moon and hit the lunar surface, calling my attention to its position in the sky. Other times I would just simply notice it from left peripheral vision, and then when I look directly, that it looks like the position is suddenly adjusted slightly. On other occasions, it looked like it's like being rolled into position. Emphasis of the 1981 Orlando malpractice accusation. Exactly, specifically, adjustments of position, slight variation, very precisely monitored and observed and manipulated. So, what about others observed? What are the various conclusions that other people, without any explanation? You know, there was even one time I was walking, one night, I guess it was probably like in about around 2008. I was walking away from Sarasota Pavilion on the entry ride that goes to Gateway. I think it's Mall Drive. So it was early in the night, but it was dark. The full moon was in the eastern sky. As I walked away from the bus transfer, suddenly, I don't know how it happened, but a very bright, luminous, bright, small, round, apparently particle of light formulated to near the outer corner of my left eye and then zoomed through space and immediately hit the moon. The entire time, as it got larger and larger, zooming through space, the elapsed time was maybe 2 seconds. So anyway, there were observers. There was a couple of young black men who were still on the Sarasota Pavilion near the Michaels store. And then as I continued, inexplicably it happened again. A luminous, bright particle formulated to near the outer corner of my left eye and then zoomed across the sky, very spectacular looking, and hit the moon. So whatever the opinions were, whatever the perspective was of the others, that I continued to walk to where I was staying nights at that time on the dental property of Curtis Avenue across from Gulf Gate Library. So, as I've said, there are many instances through years of lunar action secretly pivoting above me, and as a matter of fact, recently I've heard it alleged that there had been earlier in my life observations that even during high school, that there are others, that something that I never noticed, that there are others that had observed maybe slight variations of the moon above when I wasn't noticing. So anyway, this continues to be for everyone being safe. You know, it just makes sense to me that the matter can be resolved. You know, obviously the moon isn't doing anything to anybody. Everyone's supposed to be safe about it. Pertaining to any religious beliefs or whatever, there should be adjustment to reality about that, with continuing understanding of the perspectives of ancients, that there might have been very many differences during the onset and the earliest. So I hope that everyone's going to have a good weekend. I'm going to continue this testimony and hope that the future is going to be peaceful and with good resolving on behalf of Savior. Thank you.